welcome back to the Messed Up Movies Podcast. I'm your host, Griffey. Joined as always by friend, super producer Heath. That's him with the backwards Tony Romo hat. As always, joined as always by our friend co-host, and you know he's a real filmmaker because his hat faces forward. Josh Hull, welcome back to the show.
Hell yeah! I didn't know that was a criteria. I'm really glad that.
I just think it's important for the audience we give those visual tells of where you are professionally in life.
I'm more like the Fred Durst. I'm the Fred Durst director.
Oh hell yeah!
I would like to switch. You know, like Fred Durst directed freaking Travolta, man. Right? Like
I guess you could call it that.
I got poop.
Yeah.
If nothing else, we got that clip.
Thanks for having me back.
Well, awesome, man. We're glad we're catching you at a really exciting time for you, too. We're excited to dive into that. Would you care to, for those people foolish enough to not have heard your previous episodes, would you care to introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and where people can find you online?
Yes. Hi, I'm Josh. And I am a writer, author, screenwriter, director, based out of Central Indiana. Been here doing it for years and years and years, or trying to do it at least. And then, so I've made a couple indie films here in Indy, about, 15 years ago at this point now with some of those. But the most popular one was probably The Impersonators with Josh Arnold from Bob and Tom. And then I have a couple books out, and one of them being Mouth, which we talked about on the last episode that I was on. And then my debut novel, 8114, comes out this August. And that's all the mumbo jumbo about my work. And then you can find me online. My OnlyFans is my Instagram is Joshua the Hall, and then Facebook. And then those are kind of the only two I really do at this point. You know,
right? Yeah, that OnlyFans, high return on investment, guys. If you really have the extra bucks, I know the global economy's tanking, but.
Yeah, I only have one subscriber, and it's Misfit Parade, so it's very weird.
Yeah,
so this is like
we share it.
Like, yeah.
We all pitch in $1 a month.
Thank
so
you. Yeah, thank
you. Okay, so this is I think you are a fascinating guy to me and Heath, right? Because you are essentially on the path that we are trying to do as well. So you're a good Indiana guy like us. You came up making indies. Your script Glorious came out, and that movie just crushed on Shudder. Kind of jump-started.
I totally forgot to mention Glorious in that intro that I just.
No, I got it. It was very cool. The underplaying, the great success. Yeah, that's a pro move, guys. But now you're not only writing screenplays, right? You are right. I have your novella, right? Mouth. I love that one. You're writing an actual novel. You still write spec screenplays. You are in the works to direct a project now. How do you find time to manage to do all of this? I think one of the hardest things for a lot of us is we have jobs, kids, wives, all that kind of stuff. And I know Heath and I are always like, God damn it, if only we could multiplicity ourselves. How have you managed to multiplicity yourself?
That's you're gonna have to find that answer on my OnlyFans, where I actually it's really just been since Glorious where I've really learned how to do sort of the multitasking, and for so long I was juggling, having struggles trying to juggle so much. And as you guys know, there's so many ideas you want to get to, so many ideas you want to write, so many things you want to do and pursue, and especially here in Indy, that's really hard to do. And I learned that really hard with my first 3 films, and then going into Glorious. The Glorious experience just changed everything. But also, at that point it's COVID, so everything's changing for the world. And that's kind of when everything went. You could do everything online. You can have your meetings online. That's where kind of the film industry shifted for a minute there. Which really opened a lot more doors for me creatively and on the screenwriting front. And so once all that started happening, and then the book thing started happening, I was able to just kind of get into this rhythm where I had a schedule set. I would know what I was wanting to work on. I knew the morning shift, if I would do 2 writing shifts a day. So the morning shift, I would work on either my book stuff or my movie stuff. And then the night shift, I would work on either the book, whatever I didn't do in the morning, I would work on the other one. And so I was able to multitask in a way that a lot of people have a struggle with, because I think there's that, and it's a fair mentality, and it's not. This is, I mean, working in the restaurants for years while trying to do film, you're just exhausted after a freaking full day. You're exhausted in the morning time, you're exhausted at nighttime. But I find if you can just, what I found was if I could just give myself a solid hour or an hour and a half in the morning and somewhere in the evening of just dedicated nothing but to writing, I was able to just knock out so many things. And I write really fast. So my average page count a day on screenwriting is probably 10 pages.
A day?
Yeah, I can knock out like a lot. Like if I'm really.
So I
like
thought you were just working really hard all the time. You're just pumping it out quantity.
Yeah, I come from the John Carpenter school where he takes the big advance. I don't do that because that's not. But where he would take the advance, he'd have 8 weeks to write a first draft of this script and turn it in, and so he would play video games and mess around for the first 6 weeks, and then he'd write the script in the last 2 weeks, and then and it's like, and so I just learned. I think it's because of the restaurant business where I was trying to juggle all the writing that I had to write with such a quick urgency, because I never knew when I was going to run out of time, or I never knew when the next commitment was going to come up with life, and so I was just scribbling, just going as fast as possible. And that just really set in kind of my work habit and it's been my work habit for the last, especially since Glorious, for the last probably 4 or 5 years of just writing as quick as I can, and just juggling and trying to keep that momentum going, because once that thing happens, it's like this is the moment you've been chasing, and so you kind of got to go full at it as much as you can. And so that's really the only way I found out how to juggle so much and keep pushing at it.
Yeah, it's a struggle, man. And I know for me, when I'm writing, that's always my hardest thing, is just committing to the chair. Like those first 20 minutes, I sit in my chair, and then I want to leave, but I'm like, don't leave. So then I'm on my phone, and I'm like, just fucking sink into the chair. And if I can get that part done, then I'm off to the races. But that is always, or I'm just starting and my kid runs in. And so I think finding that, my writing partner has this great phrase I like, right? The muse has to know where to find you. And the more you just commit to that sitting down, I think helps a lot. I would love to ask you, one thing I also find myself now is I'm constantly trying to find more time to write. How do you pick which project you prioritize? And how do you know you go from, I have this cool image in my head, right? I almost always have a flash of something that I want to write about. So not only how do you pick which idea to go with, how do you approach the pre-writing process before you know you're ready to dive on the page?
So a lot of the recent, this is an interesting last few months for me, because it is the first time since Glorious where I haven't had a full slate of projects that I'm on, where I'm bouncing, having to turn in revisions or scripts. So the last few months have really kind of been a reboot, essentially, for me, in more ways than one. But so I've had to ask myself that question too. It's oh, okay, so how do I go back to just square one and picking a project? And so that's been an interesting thing to do. But my from the outset, how I start every project, from the image that you talked about, it's a image, Glorious is popped in, glory hole, obviously. But it's what's the movie that I want to tell? So I start a Google document for every, that's Google Doc for the cool kids. But it's a Google document for us, for us front hat wearing people, Heath.
This is that professional device.
I do the docs, man.
Yeah, the doc. So I start a Google Doc for everything that I do, and I'll put the name of the project at the top. I'll do the quick it's this meets this underneath it. I'll put a quick image, whatever the first image, if it's an actor's face or something, or a scene from a different movie, I'll put that under there. And then I have 5 or 6 different chunks where I'll be I'll have one area that's scene ideas, one chunk that's just influences, inspirations, things I want, you know, and I'll just go through and I'll just write. Basically, it's kind of like the index card, where instead of writing down an index, I'm just writing down any thought that I have, dash, 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 anything. You know, it could be like guy wakes up at a rest stop, you know, and then it's like, but also like blah blah blah, like this is happening in his life. It's also you know, so all the themes, everything, and then I'll fill that out, and then if I get enough, I'll start outlining on there, and it could be a brief outline, or I'll do a treatment. I really, I'm really, I don't know about you guys, but I'm really bad at treatments. And I enjoy the outline process to a certain point. I don't like having the entire thing, but I like knowing the start and I like knowing the end. And I think once you have those parts, you can jump into the script as long as you know how it begins and how it ends. Then you can go. And so once I have a Google Doc that's really filled out and that I'm excited about, then I'll jump in to start the script. And that's the same process for the books as well. I'll just do, and I have so many of these things, and some have been sitting there for years and years and years that I just, I'll go back and I'll add a line to one doc and I won't touch it again for like another year, and it's just constantly building up. And so that's my process for most of my original stuff. I have spent a lot of the last few years on adaptations. And so that's an entire different process where I break that down to some of the scenes that I want to include and how to, what I'm going to add, what I'm going to take out. And so that's become just a whole different learning curve of the writing process. But that's essentially how I start kind of everything. And then, it's just that juggling part. It's like, if one project is far more ready to go, I can fully focus on writing that screenplay. But if I get stuck on the screenplay, I can go back to one of these other docs and add in things and work on those. Yeah. So I'm constantly having something in motion. I'm constantly having a workflow of some sort. And there's not just a bunch of projects just sitting there being untouched. Something's always being touched in my house. Sorry.
I mean, we've seen your movies. We get it. Yeah.
Josh, I
subscribe to your OnlyFans.
I do find that kind of interesting what you said and how you start the concept phase and almost like approaching it from what are the commercial aspects of this? Is it Aliens meets Driving Miss Daisy or whatever? Just thinking about it that way.
Holy shit! Write that down.
I was going to say Google document.
Right. I don't know that a lot of writers, and I'm not a writer, so maybe I'm way off here, but I don't know that a lot of writers think about it necessarily from how to package it up or how to what appeals directly to an audience at that foundational level so much. And I can see it in the projects that you turn out. They have a commercial appeal, so it makes a lot of sense that that's kind of where it's originating.
Well, I'm trying really hard to sell out, so it's like I'm really, it's really
same,
that. No, I genuinely. So I think where a lot of writers stall out or have a hard time is there's that argument of like, what do I want this film to be, or what should this film be, or like, do I like? There's this attitude of like anti-Spielberg, anti-blockbuster, like it's all about the indie, right? And it's like all about like where that it doesn't have to be the case. Listen, we all got into making movies because we saw a fucking blockbuster movie or we saw a commercial success that made us be like, holy shit, I want to do that. Aliens is a prime example of that. Driving Miss Daisy, not really I think I did pretty well. So that's a great pitch. You walk into the room with that. They're making that movie.
Go.
But I think a lot of people really hate the idea, and you'll see this. Josh, you probably see this a lot more because of what you do. Is when like a news will come out that like Radio Silence is making a movie and it's described. It's like this meets this. The comments will be like, oh, blah blah blah, like kind of like turning their nose up at the elevator pitch of connecting. But what they don't realize is you have to do that. Like that's an integral part of pitching movies. It's an integral part of selling movies. It's of getting them distributed. It's like an integral part of the process. So if you're not thinking about that from the very get-go, if you're not thinking about that from the jump, it's going to make your life so much harder down a year, 2 years, 3 years down the line. If you don't know how to sell your own movie before you start writing it, then you got to really
And that's
dive into what that process is.
I don't see that as selling out at all. I think that's just kind of being mature about
no.
Do you want to write for a living? Do you want to do this as your job? Then you have to think that way.
That right there, what you said, right, is so many of us want this to be our job.
Yep.
But I think there's something about putting the moniker of job on it that bothers some people, right? We're taking out the esoteric art nature of it.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's this, like the famous Rick Rubin thing that was going around last year, right? When he's like, oh, I always have the audience last in my mind. Yeah. And I was like, that's a cool thing to say. That's not true, right? Like, he is an audience. We're all an audience. We know, because I've always believed, right, you should write the movies that you would be fucking pumped. Like, if you came home after a long day of work, you popped an edible, and you turned on Shudder, and Glorious is there. And you're like, oh my God, I'm going to stop everything right now and watch this and not scroll through all the fucking thumbnails. To me, that's the movie you should write. For some of us, it's Glorious or Mr. Cream Jeans Hidey Hole. Some of us, it's a portrait of a lady on fire.
There's a crossover universe there somewhere, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people get caught up on that. They don't want to demystify the art process. Like, we're some kind of goddamn wizard conjurers. But it's like what it is, I think, to your point, Josh, you have to sit down for your 3 to 4 hours a day and fucking shovel shit.
Do the work. You do. Yeah. It's like, it's literally like you think like, that's a perfect analogy. Like, you think of farmers, like when they got a sprawling farm, right? Like, and then they also got to wake up and they got to shovel shit in the morning, and it's genuinely like, it's the same thing. Writing is not a glamorous thing. It's like the loneliest, hardest thing to do sometimes. And I mean, it genuinely sucks sometimes, but it's also the most beautiful thing in the world. And it's like the thrill of finishing a project of any size, be it short, be it feature, be it a novella, be it a novel, short story, whatever it is. That's yours. You brought that. You're a wizard that conjured it up, but you fucking you want to do something with that. You want to sell that. There's commerce behind every creation that you do, like there's and that's the thing. I think everybody lets it get in their way a little bit is I'm an artist, like it's not about, it can be about everything. It can be about the art, and it can be about the money, and it can be about making people happy. And it can be about, rubbing it in your third grade teacher's face that said you would never do good at writing. Like it could be about all those things in one time. And that all starts from that very first nugget of an idea. And if you don't know what that is, or how you're going to pitch it, even pitch it to your friend. Hey, I got this great idea. Okay, well, what is it? It's about
it's about, the human condition.
Yeah.
Like, no, if you're starting with it's aliens meets Driving Miss Daisy, that's a little bit more accessible.
Holy shit, I want to say, you said that to two friends, and we were both like, "Fuck, I want to watch that movie."
I would immediately turn that on high as shit and be like, "Dude,
This is fucking.
I absolutely just love your approach on that, Josh, because it is one of those. Again, I think there's also like this great myth that certain screenwriters can just disappear for a weekend and come out with a masterpiece. Right. And that if I just work harder at the things that make me a writer, right, like I can be smarter and know bigger words and whatever, all of a sudden this will become easier. And I just feel like writing has never gotten easier for me. And in fact, I think the more you try to reach and tell better stories, it only gets harder, and you feel worse and worse. We just finished a vomit draft on our newest story, and we're just kind of stuck. Like we have questions we can't answer. And one of the things I told my writing partner is I'm like, I'm just kind of depressed that I suck this much at writing. And it's like, I've written good things before. I swear to God, it's just every time I feel like I'm all the way back down.
But that's that craft. That's the craft of this thing, right? And it's like, same thing. I just literally finished a draft of a thing today. Literally. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad it's done. That's a piece of shit. It's really bad, probably. And there's so many things that I got to go back and mold and form, but you can't do that unless you know what it is. and
Yeah.
now I have 90 pages where I can go, okay, this doesn't work because this thing shifted halfway through the story, into something else. Because that's the other joy of like not outlining fully is you just let the characters and story take you where it wants to take you. And
Yeah.
sometimes, you don't have, like, if you're doing an adaptation, you got rules there. Or if you're working off a treatment or, producer notes or anything, you don't always have the freedom to go where you want to go. And so, and that's the thing. You can't. So you're always going to feel like a piece of shit once you finish the first pass of something, and then you
Yeah.
go, okay, I can shape this into the thing and shape it into how good I know it could be. Now that I
Yeah.
know how floppy and shitty it is right now, and
Yeah.
like now that it looks like me in a bathing suit, probably I can now send it to the gym for the next
Ew.
60 days. Yeah.
There's a lot I would like to adjust on this picture. No, I mean, I think Seth Rogen said that right once. He hates writing outlines because he would write these big outlines. And then
Yep.
for me personally, I think I know the characters until I start putting words in their mouth. And then
Yep.
sometimes it opens up these whole other lanes and you
Yep.
change a couple things. You're like, my whole fucking outline is gone. I spent 2 months on
Yeah.
this outline that now has no fucking value to me.
Exactly. Yeah, it's hard. That's the hard part about the process is you feel like sometimes you have to kill your darlings before you even get to kill your darlings in the actual rewrites and stuff, because you're just like, man, these guys are not. This is not where I was expecting it to be, or blah blah blah. So yeah, but that's the exciting part of this whole process. And so yeah.
Well, let me ask
I
you
don't.
this, right? So Glorious came out, and you've told me multiple times this was like the changing moment, right? Because you had made
Yeah.
a bunch of movies and had been active writing. You had this great book, right? The movies that could have been, right? Like sequels
Yeah.
that never happened.
Yep.
So you had been on the path for a while, right? This movie changes things.
Yep.
Talk to me about what it's been like to approach. I'm sure you probably can't talk about the project itself, but you're about to go direct a movie, right? And if I remember right, it's been quite a while since you've directed a movie.
It's
So
been a
talk
long
to
time.
me about how you're feeling coming out of this lonely in the room kind of thing to now you're back on the path, man. What is that like to be writing again, knowing that you're going to be directing it as well?
It's weird. It's a weird adjustment, but it's also been, so I think 2014 was the last time I directed a movie. I think 2015 was when that movie came out. So yeah, I think it would have been 2014. Um, and that's a long time to kind of sit still, but also I've only really been kind of not trying to direct for like kind of like the year before Glorious, and then a couple years maybe after Glorious. I just kind of shifted my entire focus to just worry about writing. But there's a lot of things in that 2014 to 2019 span that I was trying to direct. I was trying to make movies that whole time. Glorious being one of them that I actually tried to get off the ground myself to direct, and those things just never happened because of my previous work was just not up to standards of like things that we were trying to do. Um, a lot of other reasons, and then some of those were I was trying to change my sort of trajectory. Oh my gosh, my direction as like my three early films are all comedy sort of based things, and I was getting real tired of doing the same thing or trying to find new spins on. I wish I would have known Aliens versus Meets driving Miss Daisy then, because I would have been like, yeah, that's fucking great. But I tried to do like a tone shift in my work that I was okay. It's time for me to, and people just weren't buying in. So like Glorious was that big tone shift, and I tried to do a different movie for like 2020 that was just a completely, I guess the best comparison is like a Sean Baker type movie that was based off a book, and I just couldn't get it off the ground. So I've been trying, and then it was just like, okay, I'm just gonna do what works, focus on what works, which was screenwriting, um and then I can say the project, it's not a secret. In When Glorious was coming out in 2022 that year, this other book was announced, and it was called Anybody Home. It was a home invasion thing. and it was pitched as The Strangers meets Funny Games. And I was like, holy shit, I need to read that book because I love both those movies, right?
Right.
And so I got an early copy of the book, and I read it, and I was like, I want to do this. This would be cool to do as a movie. Author was on board, publisher was on board, so I developed it out. And I developed my own spin on it. It's not a full adaptation. It's like my take on the material. And so this was March 2022. And everything was locked in for April of 2022, and then it kind of went off, and it sort of was taken out of my hands for a little while. Like it was not going to be directed by me at that point, which has happened multiple times, where actual other people come on and they're like, I would think we should do this, and you should just be the writer, blah blah blah, which is totally cool, totally fine. This one was a little different because I had like developed it from the ground up for myself. Anyway, a long 2-year process of nothing happening with it because it is a little bit of a dark thing. It's like it's not a fun cozy pitch. And then we got the rights back in October, and it was going to be going with like a different team. All in that time, I was developing a different project for me to finally get back into directing because I always said I wasn't going to do it again until I could do it right, until I could do it with a proper budget, and until I could do it with a team that was super supportive. And post Glorious, a lot of the Glorious team was like, hey, if you ever, they were like, we'll help you get a movie up again. And so we were doing setting up a different movie, and I was all in on that. And then Anybody Home came back into play, and I was like, oh, and this was right as the brewery closed as well. And so they were like,
Right.
I finally, like, I had time, like I had the moment in the schedule, and they're like, well, if we want to do this in the first quarter of 25, would you be able to do it? I was like, I actually could. And I was like, so it was this really weird serendipitous kind of thing how it played out. So all that being said, it's very fun. Like I was telling you guys pre-recording, watching you guys put together your shoots and just seeing the fun and seeing how like the behind the scenes pictures and videos, and just that was all happening at the same time this was coming together, and it was just exciting, and it really made me miss filmmaking again, and I was finally able to tell myself, okay, we can do this again, we can dedicate ourselves, and we feel good doing this with this team, with this material, and I have the support, and it's a complete tonal shift from anything that I've done. And so it's very exciting. It's also very nerve wracking to think about directing again because, I don't think of myself as a person who knows every little thing about filmmaking, and I think that's another thing that hampers a lot of people once they, because
Yeah.
Kevin Smith will traditionally say he doesn't know anything about lenses. Like he'll like, and I know a little bit, but like I'm very like, I believe in bringing on people who know more than you to enhance,
Yes.
and like I don't want to be the person on set that knows everything. I want to, and through, we've had so many Zooms and meetings with so many people that I'll come out of them, I'll be like, my head's just like blown because I'll be like, I just feel like I sat in this rad freaking filmmaking lecture about some stuff, because the movie's it's a unique movie. It's not, it's not a traditional narrative, so it's a very unique style, and there's very strict rules to what we're doing, and so there's a lot of curation and considering. Like we have to consider a lot of things going into this, and so it's been exciting, and it's got the bug back, and it's very much like, okay, like what's the next, like I'm gonna do this, right. And then there's already conversations about like this other thing that I was already doing, like that's still on track, and like we can still, so it was just very exciting that I have the bug back. That I miss filmmaking to the point where I want to dive back into that war, and it very much is a war.
You really have been in the wars because your previous films, I mean, the trenches of low budget filmmaking.
The trenches.
So this will be hopefully a very refreshing experience for you.
I hope so. Yeah, and I think that and I think I have been rather honest about those experiences on those early films, and I don't think it's. it should be taken as a negative way towards anybody or anything that happened on those things. I think it was just, early experiences with not enough resources or time, trying to do too much, even like on my end, like writing scripts that were not smart to try and produce at a low. But I think Impersonators had something like a 60-person cast. Like, who does that? Like, what are we doing? Like somebody talk to that guy back then. And so it's just, that was another thing that changed with Glorious, was you just realize, oh, you got to think about so many more things from the outset, like, how easy is this going to be for somebody to pull off at a moderate budget level? And so that's the thing, is just trying to be smarter with my writing, but also like excited and keeping that excitement and knowing like this can come to life. This doesn't have to just sit in a drawer because it's just because I'm the director of freaking Chopping Block. Like it could come to life. Things can come to life now, and it's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that's so cool, man, because, again, I think you were trying to do this one thing, and you faced all the fucking bullshit that all of us face all the time. I love the idea of just, all right, what can I control? Because I feel like so much of filmmaking, it's just this brutal onslaught of things that are just beyond your control, right? If you're trying to manage schedules of all these people. Like you said, we had it lined up for a month away, and then they're like, oh, now it's on pause for 2 years. Yeah. The uncertainty of the filmmaking life, I think so many of us struggle with all the time. And this idea of what can I stay active and control while waiting for things to develop and manifest is crucial advice for all of us, man. Because we talk about, we're doing an anthology horror film, right? Yep. So we'll shoot one, we're up here, we're like, yeah, we're doing it, look at this footage. And I think, Keith, you said this the other day, the hardest part is reactivating the machine. Like, we're in the process, we're making the movie, but every segment is like an entirely new set of production problems. And the months it takes for locations and cast and effects, and it's that constant, that's where all the problems come in. So what can we do to stay on course?
But you got to think at the same time, you have that gratification of being able to look at what you guys are doing, this thing that you're building in pieces, and knowing what's working and what's not working, and you can change things. You can, you have every answer that you can have up until the point you get on set, then obviously you have so many more,
all of our plans have gone tits up.
Then but you got, like, it's that thing, and it is, there's this will be the first time really where, I think my first movie we shot over 2 different weekends, and so that was 4 days total. Impersonators had like a really wonky shooting schedule, but it was like I think it was like 8 to 10 days. Chopping Block was like 7 concurrent days, or 7.
That's
8
fucking fast, man.
days.
Yeah, a whole feature in that time.
Yeah, and so this is slotted right now for 15 days, and I'm sure they'll cut down, but it's that very thing was like,
wait, the new movie's 15 days?
Yeah, we're looking.
Damn, that's fast
right
too,
now.
brother.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't locked in.
Hopefully you have enough hands to pull all that off.
Yeah, it's a very small movie, especially with the style it is. That it's still gonna be a lot of work. I'm not like I'm just saying, this is right now going into it. This is gonna be the most shooting days I've ever had on a project.
Yeah,
and so, but it's that thing where, but once we're in it, and there is no like being able to see what's working and what's not working, and that's the thing, is there's give and takes with both, with having all of this, and you guys are, I'm sure that's hard to stop and go and then stop it, and
yes.
Well, we always have something to complain about.
There's always there's always something to complain about, regardless. But it's there's movement, and there's the bar is moving, and that's what everybody, just as long as people just try and do that with every single project, is just move that bar a little bit. Mm-hmm. Which was not what I was doing with my early films. It was if the bar was moving, it was dropping rapidly. Like, it was like,
like Limbo at a White Lotus resort.
That was like, I think this is going in reverse. And so like that's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those because we deal with that too. Like your wonderful other half, Sophia, joined us on the most recent shoot. And we're always just like, how did we do the other one without her, right? And we keep finding people. And I think that's kind of the nice thing, right? Is if you keep finding people that make your lives better and your projects better, right? And especially you all get along on set, that extra time can be super valuable. But I think so many of us, and I know we're in about that same age group, right? Where we're always like, we're running out of fucking time, dude. We gotta go.
Yeah.
Yeah, 20. We can fucking drink for 3 days in a row and still be efficient. That's where we're at. And it's that fucking constant struggle. All right, another thing I wanted to talk to you about. So I read Mouth and loved it, right? Again, another fascinating, dangerous thing to put yourself in whole story. But that one I loved, right? Because it's kind of this perfect blend, because I think of you as just this constantly laughing, joking friend of mine, right? But you write these, like,
you just kind of summed up how everybody looks at me in life. That guy takes nothing serious.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're the guy I had beers with, and we just fucking laugh until it hurts, right?
I'm fucking serious. I'm going to show all you people how serious I am.
But again, I know because I've heard from Sophia and you that the new novel's like this really fucking mean horror story, right? And I think Mouth was this kind of perfect blend of what you do so well, but it had these really dark, horrifying undertones that I'd read a chapter and be like, oh, we're talking about movie shit. And then I'd like be laying in bed and be like, wait, what the fuck just happened in that chapter? I was like, oh my God, this poor character. And I think that you're kind of in this beautiful, because I read a lot, right, of new horror books, right?
Yeah.
And there's this kind of beautiful thing happening in horror publishing, I think, where we're getting so many insanely strong novellas, which feel like they are written by people who love horror movies, almost with the express intent of becoming an IP that can help generate movies and then also be benefited by having a movie, right? And I feel like Mouth is one of those that's so written from a filmmaking perspective, right? Is that something that you were thinking about when you were writing that, or is that just your natural movie fanboy coming out in the work?
Yeah, I think no, I did not. There was never, and there still really, I mean, there's been some interest, and I flirted with it for a little bit, but to me, Mouth is such a singular thing that I went into that. This is a novella only. I don't want to go into it thinking about how this is going to be a movie. How's this going to? Because I have gone into a few things writing them, and that has hampered the process of like, and also as a reader and as somebody who sees things, people fucking can sniff that shit out like a mile away. Like they're like, oh, hey, clearly was just like trying to. And so for Mouth, it was just very much. I just want this to be a book, but the thing about me is I love movies so much, and I love film, and I love the history of film so much that's going to seep into anything that I do. Like it's especially on the book side, because if there's one thing we know about film, you can't control it when you're doing film. But if I'm writing a book, I can control everything that happens on those pages, and that will stay in those pages. And so that's why film is plays such a heavy part of Mouth. So I don't know if Mouth would ever be. I don't know how you would do it. Like I said, there's been some pokes and some questions, but again, I don't know how it would be. Now, on the other hand, 8114 is very much like cinematic in the way it's written, very much in the way it was outlined, broken up. It's broken up into 3 acts. Like it's very much a clearly cinematic thing. It talks about some movies. It talks about, like the house scene. Like when you're getting into a house, it's that traditional horror house scene. This is the scene where blah, 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 so it's very much written.
Self-aware
like
a little.
And a lot of people have said that, like in the reviews or on like Goodreads and stuff, they'll be like, clearly this was written to be a movie. And I was like, it wasn't. But it should be, and it will be probably. And that's just the difference between those two is the material. And the thing about Mouth is it was all, I don't want to break anybody's brains, but that was all make-believe, like there's no, and but the thing about
not necessarily. I don't know if I told you this. I went to high school with this guy, and we had an ag class. So the first period or two, you could just be in a barn watching movies, right?
Yeah,
and it was fucking rad. We just smoked cigarettes and watch movies, and then like once a semester we'd go out and castrate pigs for a day. And that was ag. We got an agricultural learning. Well, one day this dude I knew, Jason, I won't say his full name, we went out back and some guy came running in from a cigarette break and he's like, I found a snake hole. And we're like, cool. We all ran out. I don't know what we were thinking, but without even fucking breaking stride, Jason sprints to the snake hole, has his dick out, and just crams his fucking flaccid dick into this snake hole. And we're all just dying laughing like this is the greatest thing that ever happened. Not even contemplating what would happen if he pulls his dick out with the snake attached to it. And so I don't know. I read Mouth and I was like, this is a world I've been in.
Well, what's funny about that is I just started outlining a new spec script called Ag, and it's about
it's Ag meets Driving Miss Daisy.
Yeah.
It's just we put more dicks in things in that movie.
Yeah, it's your friend Jason driving Miss Daisy, and but
various penetration appointments, dude. Yeah.
But the thing about 8114 is it's an actual thing. Like that house is a standing thing. Like that's a full inspired by real things. Like, and so, I couldn't help but think about bringing that to life in more ways than one, and so that's the difference. But Mouth was not written for to be a movie. No.
Well, one of the things I like about your work is, again, I think you started your journey as a filmmaker, right? And that's clearly what you love. You just love movies as much as anyone I've ever met. I think the transition from screenwriting to prose, right? A lot of people think the writing has to be way up here and it has to be this, I'm so intimidated every time I think about writing something long form like that.
Yeah.
I like that you don't shy away from the things that you love, right? Like when I read Mouth, it makes perfect sense having gotten to know you. And I love that you're not shying away from these kind of meta movie takes and self-aware stuff. I think that actually adds such a flavor. When I read a book, I really want to feel like I'm in a real world, right?
The world.
And a lot of that is putting those things in that light you up. Like I just read, what was it? Paul Tremblay's horror movie.
Yeah.
And that one is about a movie that went bad and didn't get finished. It actually has screenplay pages in it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't care that this is made to feel like it's going to be a movie someday. I'll be fucking pumped to go watch that movie.
Right. Yeah. It was funny because it's like Stephen Graham Jones gets a lot of shit for his references in all of his books, right? And Mouth very much. Oh yeah, like and Mouth very much does the same thing. And I found it hilarious when Stephen Graham Jones emailed me about something. And he's like, "Wait, you wrote Mouth?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I really like that." And I was like, "Hell yeah!" They're like the king, like not in a knock. I was like the king of like referencing shit he loves.
Yeah,
loved the thing that I did the same thing. And so it's very much like the stories of Kevin Smith when he was writing those early scripts, and people would read them or watch his movies and be like, "Holy shit, we can do that." We can talk about all the things we love in like our movies, and then just kind of cracked open the shell. And
I remember the first time I saw Mallrats, it was the first movie I'd seen where I was like, "That's just me and my friends."
Yeah.
Like, how is this a fucking movie?
Other people talk about Superman sperm?
Yeah,
like, what?
I'm telling you, I personally love that. Right? Like, if you love something, why not fucking write about it?
And
right?
That's the thing.
We're not writing War and Peace like that. That's not happening for most of us. You know what I mean?
I just think it's like, and I have the same approach with film and especially with, anybody at home. Like, it's very much a commentary on the genre and on horror films. And it talks about a lot of films. It talks about a lot of things, or it references a lot of things. And it's like anything that I touch, I want to share. I want to reference something that maybe somebody hasn't seen that or heard of that movie, or that, and then they'll go look it up and then they watch it. That's the only thing I could hope for out of talking about how much I love something. And that's generally, that's why I'm pretty positive about anything I watch. Cause I'm just like, listen, I'd much rather talk about things that I like and moments I like, instead of like shitting on things. And I try to do that. Not always successful, but I don't.
We try very hard on our podcast. New Movie Monday's been rough.
Yeah,
this early start of the year.
Man,
yeah, the Wolfman
American classic.
Heath loved Wolfman, so we try to have a nice balance.
Yeah, I just think it's hard enough to be a creator, and if you can spread a little joy while being a creator, then why not? Like it doesn't take anything extra just to like be yourself and your shit and talk about the things you love. So
Hey, I think this is.
I mean, go ahead. He's sorry.
Oh, well, I was going to change the subject just to get to a question I've wanted to ask, and I felt like this was maybe a good segue. Maybe we can get back to it if Josh, you had something that you wanted to ask that was more related. But you being a true lover of film and writing about the things that you love brings me to your Evil Dead, making of Evil Dead spec script.
yeah.
Is there any chance that that gets to go somewhere at some time? Because I just think it's a great idea.
I don't know. You know, that's a weird one. So that's I specifically wrote that script to do two things: to get representation and to land on the blacklist, or like to get it on the blacklist. Not the actual annual blacklist, but I was going to put it on the blacklist to get whatever reviews, just to get eyes on it. And that was such a hard, fun process though, because it was like I read a bunch of the books about the making of. I did a bunch of, and my approach was very much Bruce Campbell narrates the movie, and he narrates like the start all the way to the end, and it's him sitting on set of Ash versus Evil Dead, like when he starts narrating this thing. And so, it was a very fun kind of broken also time capsule of like that franchise. The great thing about that franchise is it's still going, even though it's changing, but it's still going. So I put all this time into writing that script. It was a massive script. It was like 120 something pages. And I didn't, it was the direct reason why Glorious got made, because Jason Goldberg, the producer, read that script first.
Mission
and then
accomplished.
he's like, this is too big to make, but what else do you have? So I was like, I got this Glory Hole thing. I sent him that. So I got representation, kind of. I don't have those reps anymore, but that was kind of a side effect of that script. A filmmaker did read it, a genre one, and he loved it, but he was like, this is too hard to make. I do know that it was either shared or sent to Rob Tapert at Ghost House.
Nice.
Other than that, there was kind of flirts with it would work as a limited series when kind of everything was going to limited series like the last few years. Other than that, there really hasn't been any kind of movement on it. It's just such a hard, because like you think you got to get the rights to,
right.
You got to have like Bruce involved.
Yeah. Well, we just have to work on raising your profile, and once you get to be such a success, it'll be a no-brainer to greenlight it.
Yeah, well, probably that's after being on this pod, dude.
Yeah,
things are going to start up.
And after you direct your award-winning movie, that's going to be coming out soon. Well, but I just love that as a subgenre. The movies about making movies. It's just one of my favorite things, and that is such a great story. And I just love to see your version of it. I think I've always been interested ever since.
I'll send you the script.
Yeah, send me the script. I mean, you've posted pages before, and I'm like, fuck, this is just such a cool project. I'd love to see it go somewhere.
It was a lot of fun, and it was probably, I will say, one of the most fun scripts I've written, and like the most fun reaction, of like people being like, "Holy shit, this guy! I wish we could make this," but it's just like it's one of those things, but the best part is like, people just enjoying reading it and like you asking about it still. When I wrote that thing in 2019, I think 2018, I don't know how long. And it's like, that's cool that it's still on people's minds, that's cool.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. God damn that. Now I'm like sitting there, like imagining what that would look like as we go. So we love to ask in summation, right? If you could give one piece of advice to a younger person, definitely younger than us, or even if you're older than us, but you're starting your journey, what would be the number one piece of advice you would impart on someone as they begin the filmmaking or screenwriting journey?
Oh, Jesus. Fucking run. Fucking.
Dude, so my kid, we went and saw Death of a Unicorn, and my 10-year-old was so pissed off at that movie. He's like, I'm doing the pod. Right? And so he came on and did the first 10 minutes just to say that Death of a Unicorn was mid and had no riz. And then later that night, he's like, I think I was pretty good on there. Maybe I'll be a podcaster. And I was like, no, no. I like turned into my dad. I was like, be a goddamn doctor, do something real.
Yeah. It was funny when Phoenix was like talking about going to college. I was like, when she was doing Ball State, right? She was like, what should I do? Like, I'm thinking about doing film, and I was like, I want. It was like, like the fucking Billy Madison thing, like no, and I was like, but then I was like, if I would have had somebody, and I did definitely have somebody's do that to me, I would have been pissed because this has been such a fun 20-year journey of just hating myself and being miserable. And I just would hate to rob that from somebody. I think my biggest advice though is just, it's a two-parter, right? Because it's like it's the generic know yourself, like know what you want to do, and know what you're good at. So for me, I did the flip flop, right? Like I got better at screenwriting and got worse at directing. Whereas I think if I would have taken more time to develop my directing, because I just jumped right on the features, right? Like I didn't do shorts or anything. Like I was just like, I'm gonna fucking just make a movie. And after years of talking about it, and I did make a movie after years of talking about it, but it didn't work out so great. But it did work. Like I made a movie, and but I just wish I would have learned more before trying to do it. But also knowing myself, I'm not the guy that wanted to learn anything, right? Like, and so I just I wanted to learn on the fly. And the other thing is just, I mean, it's another generic one, but this is such a collaborative medium, right? The auteur thing is just, it's dead. It's a myth. There's no such, like, Ari Aster's like he's an auteur, but he still has a team of like people bringing his worlds to life that he could not do on his own. Same thing with Robert Eggers. And they'll be the first to say, it's my crew. And so my thing is just surround yourself with the people that you want to go on the journey with, as much as you can, and in a good spirit, in a good working like unit and an attitude. Like nobody's better than anybody else. Like the director's not better than anybody. Like they just happen to be the one that maybe created the world. But guess what? They're relying on so many other people to bring that world to life. And that's the thing, is like, I wish more directors went into thing, or filmmakers went into thing, that this is not this is not just a you thing. It's a team. This is the ultimate team thing that goes for like screenwriting, that goes for anything. It's all collaboration. Like you're going to get notes, you're going to get all sorts of people wanting to give you ideas, and if you're going to be known as the person who just doesn't want to hear anything, you have a short trip ahead of you, but it's like so collaboration is like the most important part of it.
Yeah, I agree with all that, man. All right, let's end on a fun one. The movie comes out, does box office bonkers, right? Bible bonkers levels of return here. The book comes out, it's a smash hit. Hollywood comes to you and they say, blank check. Anything you would want to, any IP, any remake, anything. What's the dream project?
That's weird. That's an odd one, because it like I am doing one of my all-time dream projects. Like I'm on that, and it's a smaller thing, but it's a thing I chased for like 15, 20 years, which was my ultimate goal. Like if this ever happened. And for years it was like Halloween. Like I would do Halloween. I don't give a shit if it's Halloween 20, Halloween 25. I want to, give me that white mask. And lately I don't really know what that answer is anymore, because I've changed as a storyteller so much. I've changed as, just my goals, and I mean, like Cujo would be fun, but now they're doing Cujo, so I'm like, the longer I wait to sell out, Heath, is basically what I'm saying. All of my shit's gonna be gone, and so I'm gonna be having to do the Gummy Bear live action movie or something, and I'm like,
Kool-Aid
would be cool, yeah. Kool-Aid. But I think that again, another one, Audition would be my dream project, but they're remaking that one right now, so it's just like I don't know. Funny Games, that kind of movie, I'm kind of doing it with Anybody Home is sort of my it's my sort of American Psycho, my Funny Games, my Audition, my The Strangers. It's kind of I don't really have dream projects anymore. I just kind of
You're living the dream.
Your whole life has become the dream. We get it.
No, I don't mean it like that. I'm just saying I have stopped. Okay, I'll give you.
No, you're the Willy Wonka who walks around his factory bored as we take in the delights everywhere.
It would be a Marvel or a DC. That's what it would be. Like
nice.
anything from that. Like I know it's generic, but genuinely, like it would be a comic book movie of some sort.
I mean, just to get to work on something at that scale, I think would be fascinating and terrifying.
Like it blows my mind that Moorhead and Benson are just out here directing Marvel when like they started at budgets like we have, and the first movie was like 1,500 or something like that, and now 10 years later something they're making Marvel stuff and still doing their little things on the side, which is not little things like that, but they're doing their indie stuff still and keeping that. But that's the dream. Those guys. Their career. That's the dream project.
That's the dream, dude. I agree.
Make things with your friends on the side, and then make these big things with your Marvel
friends. Get those big ass fucking checks
get
through the week. Which makes the making stuff with your friends way fucking easy.
Yeah. So basically, we just need to pitch Benson and Moorhead. Aliens meets Driving Miss Daisy, and we'll have it off the.
I can't wait to come back to this podcast and be like, "That was the moment. That was when it all changed."
Keith is gonna be watching the trailer. He's gonna be like, "That motherfucker!
Motherfucker! Need a good entertainment lawyer
now. We got evidence, time-stamped evidence." Well, thanks for the time, man. This has been a great talk as always. Would you like to tell everyone again one more time where they can find you online and support your stuff?
Yeah, so I'm on Joshua the Hall, Hull, on Instagram. Facebook, I'm pretty easy to find. I'll be easy to find in person later in the next few months on a little bit of a book tour for 8114. I'll be doing some signings and stuff, probably at Barnes & Noble's here in Indy area and stuff. So just, follow me online, and then you can follow me in person, and I will look at you like a creep, but that's okay.
That's fine. That's fine.
That's okay.
I made the glory hole that on your OF every month.
Listen, I don't think I can complain about creeps when I wrote the glory hole movie. So it's like,
you attract your tribe with your vibe, right?
Yeah. Right.
That's why he's talking to us,
people.
Hey, also make sure to pre-order 8114. I did. You should too. Thanks again, guys, for your time. We'll see you Monday for another brand new movie.